propaganda, but the film I'm using is an Inconvenient Truth. I'm starting with this quotation from an article from Ken Kelman, and it says, propaganda is hardly less true than any other traditional art which seeks to achieve certain specific emotional effects to manifest a vision of the world compellingly. One of the things, casually thinking about propaganda that I used to do was assume that propaganda meant lies or something that you could clearly define as trying to chain you up, as we say in Trinidad, right? And so before that, you would think from the time somebody said, you could almost see people spreading propaganda on me, and automatically you think that somebody is lying on you. But in digging into the documentary and doing a bit of reading, you realize that propaganda does not really mean that you're lying or not telling the truth. So as we moved along and in looking at this Inconvenient Truth, it was interesting because of how it was presented and who it was presented by. The history on it is based on a slideshow by, at that point in time, he was defeated presidential candidate Al Gore. In 2000, I think he lost by a few votes in Florida, still contentious because it was about, it was enough that you can question, or you could have questioned why he lost. But before that, he was always had an interest in the environment. He was a Harvard University student, and a professor of his was one of the earlier proponents of this global warming, and he had an interest in it then. He would go on to write a book, The Earth in Balance, that ended up on the bestseller. So he had a background in this global warming and environment issue, and he developed a slideshow that he would tour various states and countries with, and somebody saw him and thought that it was really compelling and interesting, and that it should have been made into some sort of movie or documentary. It was released in 2006, and I think it ranked somewhere around 100 and something in the box office, which is significant because in that year you're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, Cars, X-Men Last Stand, and a myriad of those kind of movies that would have been in the market with it. It won 2 Oscars, and it was directed by Davis Guggenheim. I hope I didn't massacre his name. And it was also done in the political atmosphere of generally the American government up to that point kind of actively ignoring this environmental phenomena that people were talking about. There was the Kyoto Protocol that was done in like 1997, and all these countries were supposed to sign on to it. Most of the larger countries signed on, with the exception of America and I think Australia. And so they were. This was in the environment of the government actively ignoring it and saying, this doesn't exist for whatever reasons. Another interesting thing about this documentary is that it was shot on so many different formats. Everything from HD cam, 35mm, 16mm, even did some stuff on 8mm, and he went as far as to record on mini DV. Yeah? And you guys who enter this would know that to record on so many different formats, apart from it being a headache, could end up being a mess on screen because you have so many different qualities happening there. But the director specifically chose that so that he could get certain looks and feels He even went as far as using some really degraded JPEG pictures, because at one point in time Al Gore was talking about his son in the hospital and when he was younger, and so the grainy effect, along with the kind of Ken Burns movements, kind of made it seem, put it in context now. So although it sounds a bit crazy, it sort of worked for the documentary. That's it for the background of it. The director, Davis Guggenheim, he has a lot of television credits: NYPD Blue 24, Alias, Deadwood, Evening Melrose Place, and then he did some other documentaries. One is It Might Get Loud, which was an interesting documentary that kind of got my attention. It was about Jack White from the White Stripes, Jimmy Page, and Edge from U2. And he brought them together to discuss and interact around guitar playing and guitar technology, which for me was an interesting one. It was totally different in terms of the approach he used in an Inconvenient Truth. This was a little more, well, it wasn't straightforward fly on the wall style, but it had some of that along with some talking heads and stuff. He also did Waiting for Superman, which was closer to the Inconvenient Truth style in terms of the topic it handled. It was education in the US, and he used a lot of interviews. He used a lot of drama, I would say almost a reality TV approach, where he had these children who were waiting for numbers to be called to see if they could get into the school of their choice, and so it was real, and the drama was there, and you were hoping that this little guy got the school he wanted, and somebody would be crying and all that kind of stuff. So he doesn't really stick to a style per se from what I observed. He was one of the only filmmakers to release 3 different documentaries that were ranked in the 100 highest grossing documentaries of all time. They were An Inconvenient Truth, It Might Get Loud, and Waiting for Superman. As we go to a clip, hopefully, right? This clip, I call it the hero because to me it sets up the hero myth. Al Gore essentially is one man against the world. He is coming to tell you about this danger that is happening. So they have to make him one, believable, two, likable. They have to create a persona for him. And I thought that they did that in this sequence here.
I've been trying to tell this story for a long time, and I feel as if I've failed to get the message across. I was in politics for a long time. I'm proud of my service.
You gotta be kidding me. This is a national disaster. Get every doggone Greyhound bus line in the country and get that this moving to New Orleans. That's it, taking small, man. This is a major deal.
Now, one of the things I thought that they did there was kind of, one, they showed you that he is qualified to do this. They showed you a kind of level of seriousness, and also what it reminded me of is the documentary we watched this morning, when at the top of it they immediately cut to the bombings and the effects of this war. And so he was cut in between him speaking about what happened and the devastating effects of global warming. So there was a little similarity in terms of the approach between those two films. At least that's what I thought. And so I thought that this sequence kind of created the hero myth for Al Gore. And one of the things for me, I observe with Americans in particular and their presidents and presidential candidates is that they have this, they're almost in awe of these people. So I think that he had that working for him, that he was one vice president and two a presidential candidate. And Al Gore is not a scientist, right? But it is almost inferred in this sequence here. You almost think that you're going to listen to Dr. Al Gore, Nobel Prize winner. We did win a Nobel Prize, but not as yet. Yeah. So we move on to this clip. And this one I call the sales pitch.
Here's Manhattan. This is the World Trade Center Memorial Site. And after the horrible events of 9/11, we said never again. But this is what would happen to Manhattan. They can measure this precisely, just as the scientists could predict precisely how much water would breach the levees in New Orleans. The area where the World Trade Center Memorial is to be located would be underwater. Is it possible that we should prepare against other threats besides terrorists? Maybe we should be concerned about other problems as well.
All right, and so in the sales pitch, again, he appeals to the same emotion that the documentary this morning was appealing to. He does two things. He goes to that emotional side of, this is the World Trade Center Memorial Point, and that is going to be underwater. My goodness, how can we take it, right? The site of the greatest disaster in the history of mankind will now be underwater, right? So for Americans, this is like one of the worst possible things that could happen. Apart from the fact that he says that, look at this, while showing you this animated version of Manhattan. He says, look at this is what will happen. And you should believe me because scientists could measure this. Yeah? And so immediately it becomes believable because scientists, 1 in 10 doctors agree that you should use this cream, right? So for me, that those kind of inferences, and it might be, we all know that there's some truth to global warming. I mean, we feel it, right? So it's not really a matter of if what he's saying is real or not, but is what he presented and how he presented it, is it factual? Is he exaggerating a bit maybe? Can scientists really tell you exactly how much water is going to invade Manhattan, and will in fact the World Trade Center Memorial Site be covered in this water, right? All that really not important because I was really moved by this documentary, let me say that, you know what I mean? So I went in with my 2 eyes open, I was like, my God, let me get an electric car or something. This one is the big picture. This one is interesting because this screen you see there is a 70-foot digital screen that they had custom made for this documentary, right? And I mean, you take a look and you'll see what effect it has.
Here is where CO2 is now. Way above where it's ever been as far back as this record will measure. Now, if you'll bear with me, I want to really emphasize this point. The crew here has tried to teach me how to use this contraption here, so if I don't kill myself, I'll... It's already right here. Look how far above natural cycle this is. And we've done that. But ladies and gentlemen, in the next 50 years, really in less than 50 years, it's going to continue to go up. When some of these children who are here are my age, here's what it's going to be in less than 50 years. You've heard of off the charts. Within less than 50 years, it'll be here. There's not a single...
Now, he could have used a smaller screen than that, but it wouldn't have had the same effect, right? So that's the big picture. The inconvenient truth of propaganda. One of the things that the reading from this week had, it was speaking about the poetics of propaganda as opposed to the hard and fast facts. And one of the things that I kind of realized is that propaganda should not be narrowly defined. So you can have a poetic approach to propaganda as well as a factual approach. I just want to look at some of the backlash against it. So as much as he was factual, there was a court in Britain that actually had to do with them showing this documentary in schools. And somebody wanted it stopped because they thought that it wasn't true. And so they took it to court, and this is what the judge found. He found that there were 9 scientific errors in the film, and those 9 scientific errors meant that the film could be shown in schools, but it had to have an addendum. The teacher would have to mention that 1, sea level would not rise, 2, the Pacific not being inundated, the ocean, and all these different things that Al Gore stated as fact, right? When tested in court, came up short. And I thought that that was an interesting counterpoint to...
So is that really, really not true, or...?
Well, I think what they said is the extent to which it's true could be contentious. So they weren't saying that it's not true, but they were saying that basically he exaggerated. Yeah? And then there was an answer, same slide, same movie, an inconvenient truth or convenient fiction. Notice his screen is nowhere near as big as ours. So he may not have been able to have the same kind of impact. Yeah? And we end with this. There's no doubt that documentaries can reflect and construct myth just as much as fiction films do. And something to think about. The end.
Does anyone have any questions for Omari?